In every modern battlefield, there are nights that change everything. Nights when silence feels heavier than steel, and when the first tremor in the air is enough to tell any soldier that the world is about to fracture. What you're about to hear is the account of one such night. A night when technology, strategy, and raw human instinct collided in the dark over Eastern Europe. This is not a story of heroes and villains. It is a story of machines, decisions, and consequences, unfolding second by second. Tonight we go inside the cockpit, across the command bunkers, deep into radar rooms, and onto the frontline trenches where soldiers felt the sky splitting apart above them. This is the night the sky turned metal. It began with a pattern, a shift so subtle that only analysts with years of experience could see it. Satellite images showing unusual logistics movements, encrypted radio traffic spiking at odd hours, refueling tankers repositioning, a sudden rise in electronic noise along the Black Sea air corridor. To the untrained eye, it was nothing. To a military observer, it was the quiet inhale before a long, devastating exhale. Across Eastern Europe, command centers went into low-level alert. Radars were recalibrated, patrol routes were extended, field commanders were told, expect escalation. But escalation is rarely loud at first. It creeps, it gathers, it waits. What no one knew yet was that a strike package had already been assembled. A combination of long-range cruise missiles, stealth drones, and advanced decoys designed not just to hit targets, but to cripple an entire defensive ecosystem. A move like that is never impulsive. It's planned layer by layer. Political timing, orbital reconnaissance, signal intelligence mapping, weather windows, thermal cloud cover, predicted radar clutter. By midnight, all variables aligned. The skies were ready. Far from the battle's lines, the strike aircraft were already airborne. They flew inside what pilots call the bomber corridor, a carefully chosen slice of sky that minimizes radar exposure and maximizes terrain masking. At this altitude, you don't hear wind, you hear pressure. You feel the hull vibrating like a living organism. Inside the cockpit, the glow of the instruments painted the pilots' faces in pale green. Their voices were calm, professional, almost detached. Every checklist was rehearsed 100 times. Every switch had muscle memory behind it. The lead pilot took a slow breath and said the line that marks the point of no return. Weapons system to live. Behind the bomber formation, 2 electronic warfare aircraft powered up their jamming suites. Their role wasn't to hide the strike. It was to blind the enemy long enough for confusion to set in, to make radars see ghosts, to make commanders question what was real. Across the Black Sea, the first spark of electronic interference flickered on Russian early warning radars. Game had begun. In a fortified radar station on the Crimean coast, an operator leaned forward as a single blip appeared on his scope. It was faint, erratic, almost certainly a false return, the kind produced by weather fronts or civilian air routes. But then it split into 2, then 4, then 8. Could be birds, one technician muttered. But birds don't move that fast, and they don't approach in formation. Within minutes, the radar screen began to populate, not with aircraft, but with shadows, shapes that flickered in and out of existence. Electronic warfare was doing its work. But in the chaos, one thing was clear. Something was coming. Alarms sounded across the base. Commanders rushed into hardened bunkers. Surface-to-air batteries powered up. Engines roared to life. And the first anti-air crews scrambled onto firing platforms. But they were already behind the curve. The real attack was still invisible. Flying ahead of the strike package were the unmanned stealth platforms, triangular silhouettes cutting through the night like blades. They carried no lights, no transponders. Their surfaces absorbed radar waves like sponges drink water. To the enemy, they didn't exist. To the pilots following behind, they were essential shields. As they crossed into contested airspace, their onboard AI activated search modes, scanning for active radar, triangulating frequencies, marking targets for suppression. But this wasn't a simple seed mission. This was a network kill operation. Disrupt communications, isolate units, sever response chains, and create pockets of blindness. One drone descended to low altitude, hugging the terrain, its cameras cutting through darkness with infrared precision. Another climbed, spreading wide spectrum jamming over the peninsula. On command channels, Russian voices overlapped, uncertain, tense, contradicting each other. No visual on targets. Radar link lost. Switching to backup frequency. Backup frequency is jammed. And all the while, the bombers continued forward, silent, steady, unchallenged. Inside the bomber cockpit, a soft chime sounded. Launch window optimal. The pilot's hands moved slowly, deliberately, the way surgeons move when instruments cost more than houses. A button was pressed, a latch opened, and from the underbelly of the aircraft, the first cruise missile dropped, ignited, and shot forward into the dark. Then another, and another, until the sky behind the formation shimmered with a constellation of lethal sparks. Against the night, the missiles looked almost peaceful, but each one carried half a ton of engineered destruction, a brain filled with terrain data, and a guidance system capable of threading through valleys with meter-level precision. Within seconds, they vanished below radar horizon. The bombers turned away. Their job was done. The missiles were now on their own. Along the Crimean coast, the sirens wailed. Anti-air battalions scrambled to intercept incoming threats. Massive searchlights pierced the sky. Operators raced to deploy mobile launchers, sweating inside their protective gear. Tank crews sealed their hatches. Infantry dove into trenches, listening to the thunder growing louder. One soldier later described it as hearing the air peel apart. High above them, decoy drones deliberately exposed themselves, mimicking the radar signatures of fighter jets. Nearly half the anti-air missiles launched that night went toward these ghosts. But the real danger came from the sea level, where the cruise missiles were racing toward their targets at treetop height. In the command headquarters, an officer whispered, "We don't know where they are. We don't know how many there are." And worst of all, they didn't know what the targets were. The first explosion struck at 0217. It hit a radar installation designed to track ballistic threats. The blast wave rippled across the coastline, shattering windows miles away. The radar dish folded like paper. Operators were thrown from their consoles. Backup generators caught fire. Before smoke could even rise, the second strike hit. This time, a logistics depot, where fuel tanks erupted into towering spirals of flame. The heat could be felt from the neighboring district. At 0221, a hardened command bunker took a direct hit. Though reinforced with layers of concrete and earth, its entrance collapsed, burying personnel inside. Every minute, another explosion marked another surgical strike. This wasn't randomness. It was a blueprint carried out with mechanical precision. One after another, nodes of the Russian defensive network were removed. Long-range radar sites, air defense command relays, coastal missile batteries, ammunition warehouses, communications hubs. Each one erased from the map before a coordinated response could form. The peninsula shook under the weight of steel and flame. In documentaries, we often talk about systems, radars, vectors, and impacts. But what often gets lost are the people living inside that machinery. Inside a trench near Sevastopol, a young conscript pressed his helmet against his ears as shockwaves rolled overhead. He could smell burning fuel, wet earth, and cordite. He tasted dust in the back of his throat. "Is it over?" someone shouted. But no one knew. On a naval pier, sailors scrambled to release mooring lines, desperate to get vessels away from the blast zones. One frigate crew leapt across the deck as a nearby fuel tank detonated, sending a column of fire higher than the mast. In the Air Defense Command vehicle, a colonel stared at a screen that showed nothing but static. A battlefield without coordinates, a sky without signatures, a map without answers. The real chaos of war isn't loud. It's the moments of silence when no one knows what happens next. And that silence blanketed Crimea that night. By 03 Russian Suishams, forces began to reorganize. Mobile launchers repositioned into forested areas. Short-range air defense systems scanned for low-flying threats. Electronic warfare units attempted to jam incoming GPS signals. But the incoming waves had already adapted. Some missiles switched to inertial navigation, cutting through interference. Others followed pre-mapped terrain contours. A few shifted to optical guidance, locking onto targets visually. The defenders were fighting blind. And worse, they were fighting late. Only when the third wave of impacts struck did they finally identify the pattern. The missiles weren't hitting random military sites. They were systematically degrading the peninsula's ability to coordinate. This wasn't just a strike. It was isolation. At 0327, the largest explosion of the night erupted. It targeted a deep underground storage complex holding munitions used for air defense resupply. The shockwave rattled buildings kilometers away. A mushroom of fire rose into the clouds. For a moment, every radar station, every command bunker, and every remaining defensive unit went silent. This was the point of collapse, the moment when a frontline ceases to function as a system and becomes a set of isolated survivors trying to make sense of the destruction. Soldiers reported seeing the sky flash white. Pilots on patrol felt their aircraft shake from the concussion. Civilians woke to windows shattering inward. In war, there are strikes, and then there are messages. This was both. Just before dawn, reconnaissance drones swept through the impact zones, capturing thermal signatures, assessing damage, verifying destroyed assets. Their silent lenses recorded burning bunkers, collapsed antenna arrays, and the twisted remains of air defense launchers. The bombers were already hundreds of kilometers away, their silhouettes disappearing into the soft blue of morning. What began as a silent movement across the sea had ended with over a dozen key strategic sites neutralized. Crimea, once considered one of the most fortified zones in the region, had been ripped open in a single night. But the most important victory wasn't physical. It was informational. The world now knew that the airspace wasn't impenetrable, that radars could be blinded, that command networks could be disrupted, that even the strongest fortress has cracks. And somewhere inside a dark briefing room, a general quietly whispered, "If they can do this once, they can do it again." In the days that followed, satellite images revealed craters large enough to swallow trucks, burn scars across military compounds, and smoke curling from ruined storage sites. Analysts pieced together the strike in slow motion, frame by frame. They discovered how decoys forced Russian missiles to waste ammunition, how jamming aircraft created dead zones across the peninsula, how terrain-hugging cruise missiles exploited valleys and coastal cliffs, how the strike, timing coincided with frequency shifts in local radar coverage. Every detail pointed to one conclusion. This was not improvisation. This was mastery, a demonstration of modern warfare at its most precise, most calculated, and most relentless. As dawn rose over the Black Sea, smoke still coiled from the ruins. Birds circled above shattered concrete. Soldiers searched for survivors beneath collapsed bunkers. Fire crews battled stubborn flames that refused to die. War is not decided in single nights, but there are nights that redraw the battlefield forever. The events you've heard tonight mark one of those turning points, a moment when strategy, technology, and execution aligned with chilling efficiency. And somewhere in another command center, another set of planners is already studying this strike, dissecting every mistake, every weakness, every gap in the armor. Because that is the nature of modern conflict. A chessboard with pieces made of steel and circuits, a battlefield lit by infrared, a war where silence can be as deadly as sound. And above it all, one truth remains unchanged. He who controls the night controls the war.